Welcome to the Pathways to Wellbeing podcast, where we explore holistic approaches to health, wellness, and personal growth. My name is Sophia Soul, the co-creator of Sacred You. In today's episode, we are joined by the wonderful Sasha Greenidge. We will be diving into a meaningful conversation about finding inner fulfillment and breaking free from the cycle of seeking external validation. This is such an important topic for everyone, and Sasha has a deep passion for helping women discover their true selves through her expertise as an intuitive mindset coach specializing in gene keys. Sasha has over 20 years of experience in education and psychology, and is dedicated to empowering women who embrace their unique paths and fully commit to their personal growth. I do hope you enjoy today's conversation. And if you would like to dive deeper into this journey of self-discovery and help support Sacred You, please hit that subscribe button, give us a like, or check us out at www.sacredyou, that's the letter U, .love for more valuable resources. So let's get started for today's conversation. With me today, we have the beautiful Sasha, who's tuning in from New York. Sasha, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really excited to get to know you.
And I'm very excited to be here as well, because I love to just share and talk about this. So I can't wait.
Yeah, good stuff. So we're talking about today finding our inner fulfillment and breaking free from validation seeking, which is something that I really love. We spend a lot of our lives having that need to be validated, that I am okay, because we don't think that we are. We don't have our own self-worth. So I'd love to know more about that. Tell us, for you, what does seeking validation really mean for you?
It really starts from childhood. The more I go back, every time I think, I used to tell people, when I was a teenager and things like that, where people could relate to wanting to be like their peer. But it really goes back to when I was younger. And as we'll just say, I was a weird kid. I was very different. I loved to do weird things and very different from every other kid. And the first thing, I guess, from a loving standpoint, my parents immediately started to guide me from who I was probably truly being. When we're children and we're really not too manipulated by our friends or our parents and things like that, we are just who we be. That's just who we be. And over that time, we're fed, I'm now doing what daddy wants me to do or mommy wants me to do. And it feels great because they're happy. But meanwhile, over time, it's just being conditioned to, I lost what makes me happy. And what is it that I want? What would, if I was not disturbed by my loving parents, my husband, many peer along the way, professors, things like that, who would I be? And which is, fast forward to finally what I learned now, but it's that seeking of what makes that other person happy so I can be happy. And this goes on, you don't realize until my coach had asked me, Sasha, what do you want? And I couldn't answer her for a year. Simple question. Some people would say, a lot of superficial things, or even then, I think the first thing I blurted out, because I wanted to say something, was it had to do with my children. I want kids to be happy. I was just trying to pick out things that I wanted for others, so that way I could, quote unquote, be fulfilled. And so when we're just seeking, it's just coming from other places. And when you understand really, when you really see whether it be your human design or your gene key, and you're looking at that, you look and are like, why was I even looking outside to anybody else when they have their own design, their own purpose, and what they're trying to do? And it's grossly different. And just my path was steered way off. I think some of my intuition kept me on the path of, I knew I was here to help people, but at the depth that I am here to help women, and oh my gosh, what I'm doing now is very rewarding, but by all means, like, for where I'm supposed to go is, come on, let's get on that. But I wouldn't have found that if I kept looking at what everybody else wanted, because they want to keep you safe. But safe isn't what helps with growth. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. And it's so true. We seek external validation.
Yeah.
Like so much, because we really don't have that self-worth and things. And I love it how you mentioned, as a children, we're just normal, we're just natural, and we are connected to ourselves and everything. But slowly, as we grow up, that's taken away. And especially we learn from parents and people around us that we're needing to seek approval, or we're needing to seek this from other people. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
Just want to go into something that you mentioned. You talked about gene keys, and I want to go into gene keys even deeper, or even now. Tell us what gene keys are, and how do they help people shift that wanting or that seeking external validation?
Yeah, so the amazing thing, so Gene Keys is created by Richard Rudd, and Richard Rudd was a student, a star pupil of Ra Uru, who created human design. Richard wanted to simplify that, so that way it was what he thought was an easier tool for people to use. So basically, there are 64 gene keys. We have all of them, essentially, but the ones that show up specifically in your profile are the things that we're here in this lifetime to work through and to follow that path to your purpose. And we are just always, it's a lifetime of going through this. We might find our purpose, and it continues to evolve. So there are 3 sequences that we follow, which is our activation sequence, which is that's the main thing that I go through with a lot of clients or people that come to me just asking, like, oh, hey, can you give me a little thing? So that part, the 4 gene keys that we call them the core 4 in our coaching program, they make up 70% of who you are alongside your profile. We could be a 1-3, 1-4, like all of those things. Then we go into the Venus sequence, which is very deep into relationships, childhood, how all of these relationships and things develop. And then what they call going into your Pearl sequence, which is your purpose and how you are meant to bring out that to the world. It's a beautiful sequence to go through, and everybody's is different. And I have found some people that either have the same gene keys in that activation sequence, the same as me, same order, or scrambled, but we're wildly different, whether that be because of our profile and just the way we lived. Me, myself, as a Black woman in New York versus one of my friends who has a similar one. She's in Minnesota, and she has a similar profile, but grew up differently than I did. But once you really start to go, there's for every single gene key represents, there's one for life's work, your evolution, your radiance, your purpose, and then it goes through a whole bunch, IQ, EQ, all of them that go through the Venus sequence. But what's really special is within each gene key, this is how deep we can go. There's a shadow, which is your paradigms, your problems, and things like that, your gift, and your city, which is your highest self. And we do hit that highest self every so often, but we typically are in that gift area in the shadow. But we learn, right? When we go through problems and we go through our shadows, I've learned to be able to identify what that is. I actually was just going through it, but knowing that instead of just being like, oh, I like mine is inertia and indifference. Those are the two main ones in my activation sequence. And I know now when I'm in that, something is on the horizon. I don't fall to victim to it anymore for a little bit. And then I come out and say, all right, something big is coming up. Something is bothering me. And for me, I just needed rest. I needed a break. I needed to rethink some things that I was doing and who I was doing this with. But again, within me talking about all of this, I wasn't going out to anybody. And I do have a coach, but more so I'm able to self-coach myself. Like I immediately went to these things. Okay, I'm not doing anything. And I'm saying, oh, I don't care. I could do it later, but I do care because that's in my thing. But now I know what to look for. And so again, I'm not asking my husband, oh man, I don't know about this coaching thing, or I don't know about this, or I'm really tired. I go to me first before anything else. And I'm already out working my way out of it, and I'm able to function again with others. But it's beautiful because your shadow for your activation sequence, your life's work and evolution, that's where I mainly look for people's main problems. That's is different. And you would go through something different knowing what that is. But it's a beautiful practice of self-study. And I'm here to just really help people guide that. It was absolute life-changing. And it really helps me to have that empathy and sympathy for others, because knowing my own, everybody else has their own too. So I'm much more mindful of other people when that happens.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. And it sounds like you live an incredible and an interesting life since this. Have you always been aware of Gene Keys and human design?
No. So it's always funny how things happen, and now I understand how and why they happen. I work at a school, but I tried my hand at working with an essential oil company, and I was like, I need help. And so I actually hired a business coach, but through that, she was working with Bob Proctor. I don't know if you're familiar with him. And then she herself was like, I'm going to open up a coach school. And so I was one of her first graduates, and we learned through that. But then she found Gene Keys in human design, and where a lot of people have had success and I was struggling, this was the turning point for me, because it was like, I can't do things the way everybody else does. And we're all different. Everything works, but I was able to focus in on who I am and how things are and what am I meant to do in the world. So that's my roundabout way of finding Gene Keys, but that's how my design ironically works. So in my profile, we call it the experienced authority. So I'm meant to, and as much as I dislike it, go through all the mess, like that entrepreneurial way of failing forward and going roundabout. I could hope and wish that I found this sooner, but I had to go through all of this, falling down, getting up, saying, oh, what a great way to do this. Let's go find something else. And so that was my roundabout way. And because of my design, I like to dig very deep into what I study and learn and bringing about to others. So that's how I found this. And I was like, it changed my life, because I was a victim and I played the victim in my life for a very long time and was always like, what should I do? What should I do? And people would just be able to puppet me to do what they will. But yeah, that's how my roundabout way of finding Gene Keys, and now just really this intuitive push to share with women, especially where we're moving in the next, I believe, 3 years. They're saying that it's shifting. Like we're not, as a collective, we're no longer looking to, I always forget, like a Tony Robbins or Gary Vee, or like looking to these big entrepreneurial people or Oprah or this or that. We're looking either to one another or within ourselves So that way we're able to do that for ourselves. And that's as a collective where we're moving, I believe, in 5 years or something like that, from what I heard. So it's really important that we all stop and look within ourselves. So that way, as a collective, we have our true purpose being brought to everybody else. And just, I can't even imagine how amazing that world would be, that we're just not wearing these masks and because we all have it. There is no extra puzzle piece, I think, in this world. We're all meant to fit somewhere.
We certainly are. And it's certainly going to be an exciting time, and it even is now, and like this. And I believe, slowly that world, that whole collective change is happening as each individual takes or removes our mask, which is a process. It's
not easy
thing.
Yeah.
So tell us. And I'd love to know more, Sasha, if you don't mind sharing about your personal experiences. Do you remember, was there an actual pivotal point in your life where you were able to break free from need for approval from others? And how did the Gene Keys, were you into Gene Keys at that time?
Yeah, right around, ironically, it came at this time, about 38. And I remember 38 was the time where, because my marriage is, like, being transparent, my marriage isn't great. And I had hit rock bottom in a lot of things. I feel like my job was like going to Groundhog's Day. My marriage wasn't great. And I just kept saying to myself, there has to be something more. And there's something more for me. This just can't be it. It was this feeling of existing, and like something couldn't shake it. And then I at about 39, going right before my 40th birthday, I knew there was a significance there. And I know some people at 40 are sitting there and thinking, oh, I'm over the hill, or that's it. I'm going to be put out to pasture and things like that. This is the nonsense that we're fed. And I was like, at 40, I said, I'm not taking anybody's you know what anymore. And I said, this is it. It was something more behind it, this force before. And that was probably my intuition and things. We had just started studying Gene Keys and slowly going into human design at this point. And realizing that, if you are somebody who is studying yourself or even attempting to go better and doing a lot of this self-care, and you're in your 40s or 3 years before your 40s or something like that, that's actually what they call in human design anyway, your Uranus opposition. And that's where most people, if you're working on yourself, there is a shakeup. There's a huge shakeup. And that was that for me. It was just like, we can't do this anymore. And whereas there's my husband who's just, oh my God, I'm 45. This is look at me. He's thinking about retirement. I could give two craps about that. And I'm just worried about, oh my God, I'm so excited for this. There's not a lot of people that are excited. And my coach, who's going into her 50s, and some people in that program going into their 60s, I am pumped for that. I know nobody hears about that, but that whole learning about myself and learning that as we get older, there's more beauty for that, and that you're not put out to pasture. That is your best years. I think I feel more confident, more certain. I've set up more boundaries, not walls, but healthy boundaries, because if I had to admit a lot of things at this time, what I was allowing from people, and what you choose. And that was another hard lesson for me at that point too. A lot of these lessons came about at 40. And I was like, I don't choose to be broke. I don't choose for anybody to treat me that way. And yes, I do, because you don't have to be with people. You can choose to let that go. It's not, by all means, not easy. Even now, just drawing this line with certain people, that's how you feel, but I no longer am taking on that energy. I'm here to I really am taking this guide thing seriously because I used to take their problems, their things, their junk, and it wasn't mine. So there was a lot to be learned, but learning my life's work and my purpose has pulled me out of victimhood and has really helped me to study what these shadows are. When you really read what Richard writes, because I study from, I have it here, I study from it every day, or I listen to the audio. I have it here. I study from this book. I have my activation sequence, and that's all I really study at the moment is that core four. And I know what's coming up. And each time we read, it's not a one and done up. That's my life's work, Gene Key, really going in. And each time that I'm coming out of a shadow, going back in, I'm going to read something about myself and how to apply it. So there's a lot of self-ownership, whereas I would have blamed my job or my husband or circumstance for where I am or where I'm not in my life, and blame and victim. Although I still go there, no, by all means, no, not perfect. I know where it's coming from. And I can sit here and say, this is what's coming up. Sometimes you have to go deeper and really go deep into figuring out where it's coming from. It could be from a childhood, it could be from an argument, it could be from something. But I'm able to really go within myself and just say, okay, it's a bit of a talking to myself, like, this is what it's okay to feel this way, but now we have to really move on, and we got a job to do here. Where I didn't feel like I had that purpose. I just had roles in my life. Oh, you're a teaching assistant for these children, you're a mother to your children, and tried my best for to be a decent wife, but that's not my role. And I can't, because when you just, if that's all that you are, you have expectations from other people as well, and that's not fair to my children. They should be allowed to be who they are without any expectations from me. And when you just look to yourself and say, I'm just going to guide these children, they have their own design, they have their own life. We don't realize how much expectations we put on other people also by just following along and looking to them for everything as well. Yeah.
And we put a lot of expectations on other people without even realizing it. We put so much expectations on ourselves and then also other people. Thank you so much for sharing it.
Yeah.
And it is a lifelong process.
Yes.
So thank you ever so much. I'd love to know more, Sasha. You mentioned, I think it was the 4-4 activation that you do every day. But are there any other habits or tips, rituals, or anything else that you practice that allows you to continue to build your inner work, self-work, so you don't have to rely on other people?
Yeah, so the most important thing, especially when overwhelm comes, another lesson for everybody that's, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed, this and that. That's a choice. I know that's the hardest thing that people want to hear. Oh, it is a choice. And I had to just tell myself that as well. But what I like to do is really listen. And what I used to do is shove that intuition away. And you have it. There's either a gut response. There's something going up and it's not right. And I used to be just shove that out the way. Listen to that. The most important thing, especially in a world like this and social media and everything, is to get quiet. What I lost going back to essential oils is I thought, oh, I'm done with this business. But there was a lot there and there were practices there. And so now, in conjunction with, I would love to say that I'm great at meditation or something like that. But for me, it's just really getting quiet, going for a walk. Nature, for me, is really important in getting out for a walk. So usually, like we have different kinds, but like I'll take an essential oil and rub that whatever I need. Peace is my favorite one. And I will just rub that on, think about what it is, because there's a lot of chaos going on. And the main thing is to go for a walk and to move your body. Because for me, being in front of a computer, and then coming back and just getting into the throes of life. Sometimes you have to throw yourself out too and not have it be such a Groundhog Day. So really making that time to get out. Journaling is something that I was fond of that I do need to get back into. But for me, and it really shows in my design too, grounding is really important. So for me personally, getting out in nature, I'm one to be barefoot. And as soon as I get home, because I need that. I'm not as grounded as others. And what somebody had told me is you're craving that need to be grounded. If you actually looked at my human design at the bottom, my root is completely open. So that means that I'm not really, I need that extra help to ground and things like that. But it's finding the peace in your mind, whatever it is, like finding an oil, getting out into nature, and sometimes just taking yourself out of, if possible, stressful situations or people. For me, I'm next week just going with my kids to Florida with my dad. He's a very calming person, and the kids and I just, that's something that we enjoy. It's finding those people. And he's just somebody who's just very calm. It's very relaxing. My ultimate grounding place is the beach. So I get to do that and just walk and just enjoy the waves and everything. I can completely block out. It's hard for me here. I live in a beautiful area in upstate New York where we have mountains and we do have like lakes and things, and it is peaceful. But I find for me the ultimate of just really putting myself in a bubble and having my mind wander. I don't know what it is about the ocean that just immediately, like all from head all the way to ground, I'm just grounded. But it's taking that time. It really is that self-study, and it's getting out and it's doing something. I know it's cheesy when they say, oh, self-care and things like that, but it is. It's taking that 5 minutes to do something, even for me to just roll this in my hand and inhale and do that. And I do that with the kids too. So to sit there and do that and to find that time, it really is important, because you think if you have the time to sit there and scroll, or you have the time to sit there and watch a Netflix show, and part of that time, even 5, 10, 15 minutes, you can sit there and go outside if it's great and just put your bare feet in the grass, go for a walk. Just tell somebody, go to your room and just be like, I just need 5 minutes. And that was something that I was able to do, to, especially in my house and with somebody like my husband who has to be, it's a boundary that we set for ourselves. And that has been absolutely important. It's finding my mind again, because it was very chaotic. And for somebody like me, I think I drew in a lot of people that just created this head chaos. And so for me, silence. Yeah.
And it's so very true, isn't it?
Yeah.
We need, if we want to, it's all about self-worth. I
Yes.
really believe, which when we have that self-worth, when we're building up that self-worth, we no longer need the validation from others. And the more we do those things for ourselves, so thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Getting out and grounding, getting out in nature, taking 5 minutes for ourselves. And I love how you bring up oils. I have oils too at the moment.
Oh,
I've got geranium and peppermint here.
yes.
Finding
Oh,
it
yay.
helps me balance,
Yes.
because I can also, like a lot of people, I also have challenges between getting off a technology. We're
Yep.
so consumed with technology and getting out. And when I'm starting to feel a bit out of whack, geranium helps so very much.
Yeah.
Thank
It's
you for sharing.
finding that oil, yeah. And that's it. I think now a lot of things are coming together. So even piece by piece, it's like, why did I leave that piece out? That's really important. That's an important piece. And so I'm doing much better now. It's hello, you have two powerhouses here to help. So yeah, it's just super important. And especially with oils, it's that time, it's taking that time for you, and that accountability for yourself in seconds, really.
Absolutely.
So
Totally agree with you. And again, thank you for sharing that. Can I just take a moment, Sasha, while we're talking, just to honor you? To honor you for, first of all, to sharing your experience with us on the Pathways to Wellbeing podcast with the Sacred View community and to the world, and to really honor you in living your life purpose and following all, what you need and bringing that to the world. So I really do. And thank you
thank you.
so much for sharing that. Now, and you have mentioned about coaching other women, coaching stuff.
Yes.
So how do you help other women to really identify and challenge these beliefs that keep them trapped in this need for validation?
Yeah, so a lot of the things that when I do, so I do a life audit, so from business to like how spiritual and things like that, just various different audits, and people talk to me about that a lot. As I've done many of those, what I'm finding with a lot of women is this imposter syndrome. Doesn't matter what age, imposter syndrome. And which is quite sad because they've fallen victim to what these expectations of others and trying to, again, there's this seeking from everywhere else. And if the same energy is brought inside, you wouldn't be worried so much. So when I think about that, there is no imposter syndrome with your profile, with your specific design. It is you. Like there has been a lot of people that have been like, oh my God, that's me. Yeah, that's you. That's what I said to my coach. Oh my God, that's me, a leader for women. Are you kidding? I'm supposed to lead these people to the back to themselves? Really? I was like, okay, but that belief did come and I believe it. And there's a lot of pieces to these women that they don't realize. And it's not imposter syndrome because this is your divine design from God, universe, whatever you believe. There is no imposter syndrome here. And just to have the lights go on, that we know this conscious part of ourselves. A lot of people can identify with that. I'm like, oh yeah, I get that part. Wanting to dig deep into things and really laser in and ask these questions. But this other part of me that is meant to be adventurous and meant to fail, and but then also helping me to realize in my relationships why I might want to be an escape artist and be like, oh, I don't like conflict. Let me escape. And that's part of my profile. That was a hard one to do, but a lot of things that we know that we can now lovingly like share about ourselves, and the things that we don't know and that we're either, it'll either show you're on your path or you're on your path, but oh my gosh, there's so much more to it. And that's what I love to see come about with many women, that is just watching them study themselves and have that go away. And it will always come up, but just that for them to be able to know, no, wait, that is me. Let's keep going, to be able to just allow fear to come up and then let it go. But that's super important. So I do, after that, if we are fit, there are 2 programs. There's a 3-month program that people, if they're really curious about this, it's like a self-study thing. And there's worksheets and things like that. And I do coach with them once a month. And then there's the deep dive where I really go in. Again, it's a self-study where we meet more often. There's more access to me and more of a VIP feel to it. And that's when if you really just want to go all in. But it's beautiful. Just anybody just getting started with this work. If you just learned about your life's work, your evolution, your radiance and your purpose and your profile, you're well on your way. If you took nothing else, it's a game changer. And it was for me because of my profile. I love to go deeper and everything else. And it's been self-discovery. You really don't look anywhere else. You're so obsessed with getting to know you for the first time because you realize, oh my God, nobody could have told me that. My mother couldn't have told me this, because there's limiting beliefs that people have about us and their loving ways, or maybe not so loving ways, that they want to keep us safe or down.
Absolutely. People don't really know who we are. We don't
No.
really know who we are until we develop our self-worth, remove those masks and things, and start believing in ourselves, let go of the limiting beliefs. And people, we all do it. We project our stuff on others and put limiting beliefs on others without even knowing them.
Yeah.
So,
And it has been a game changer for my children, specifically my son, looking at his first gene key profile and then looking at his human design. And for anybody that's familiar, they'll know, but anything that's colored in means that it's just that you're very sure of yourself, like if it's defined. And my son his design is completely colored in, minus the thing that makes him a what they call a projector, which is something where I've learned so much that he doesn't have the energy for certain people, or just people in general at certain times, that he has, and that the rest of his design is so defined that it's really hard. He is sure of himself. If he says, I got this, I got this. And same with my daughter. Looking at this, once you've studied yourself enough and you got the hang of yourself, it's really awesome to go to a significant other or children or your best friend and to see them in a different light, and to really just say, this is something maybe they just can't help, or this is something that in time maybe they'll work on and it'll get better, but that's something that they have to do. And you start to let go of that in a loving way. That's something that they can do. But for now, my son, he comes home. I used to be like, you have to do homework. That's what I used to do and everything. I'm like this manifesting generator. I got the energy to do that. He's been at school for 6 hours. He has, I think, more than exhausted adults, his own friends, everything else. So if he wants to go on a bike ride by himself before then going to go meet up with friends, or he just wants to zone out for an hour or two and then do homework, like little things you don't realize about people, that like it's just okay, give him that space. He is exhausted from people.
yes.
He does not have the energy to do literally that, and any kind of energy from anybody to do that. And so you start to really learn powerful things about people and shadows that come up for them, that maybe, especially if this is somebody's life's work, and this shadow comes and we just poke and poke. I've seen that with somebody who says her mother does that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, do you see that's your evolution? That why does that hurt so bad? Because she's poking at that shadow and just perseverating it.
Yeah.
And it's teaching people to manage their mind around that.
Which is
and
such
knowing
a
what that
powerful
is.
tool. And again, I just like your son must, I'm not going to say live an amazing life, but is very fortunate to have a mother like you who
I'm
understands.
so great. That is, thank you. I'm grateful that came in, because it's a work in progress with him. And when you're like, to just see it and to see that, like that definition, and when people are trying to mold you, and it's almost like you're concrete, it's almost, no, he's got a set thing. It's trusting that. And I've learned to, like, he's the baby, so I have defended him before, but in a different way this time, in honoring him, and just saying, no, you need to give him space. He's not ready for that. And same with my daughter, especially being as creative as she is. And just a lot of people would look on and be like, oh, you're such a pushover and you're such a this. But I just understand where it's coming from now, and trying to be more patient around that, and not create some of the things that I am still spending. I'm going to be spending probably the rest of my life unlearning a lot of things that, again, out of love, I know that I have to do. But I have a leg up with them now.
And it's wonderful. And it's all of,
Yeah.
and I'm just sitting here while you're talking, saying, imagine a world where we all knew our human design and our gene keys, and especially families children as they're growing up can start off their life being and understanding that we are all different, we are all unique, and we do things differently. It's not to say that we can't do them, but we just do them differently. And when we understand that, especially as parents and caregivers in whatever capacity, teachers and stuff, I think we should start a movement, Sasha, and create a human design or a school, a teaching facility based on human design and gene keys.
I know Richard had mentioned something like that, and it was, I was like, same thing. It's how, oh my gosh, it would just people would just be able to be finally.
It'd be incredible. I'd love to know, Sasha, before we wrap up, just a couple of more questions, but one of them is, there's something fun, if you could go back and send a message to your younger self about overcoming the need for validation.
Yeah.
What would that be?
It would be, oh gosh, I would definitely find the gene keys, but that I wouldn't be able to stress enough without, I guess I could picture my 20-year-old self being like, that's so cheesy. But to really be like, these answers are, the answers are within you, and to really trust that intuition and that everything in you, like to trust that gut that you've got this, and you have that passion, you have the intelligence, and you have that intuitive knowing of what is right for you. And because I ignored that so much, and I see exactly where it went wrong, whether it would be with the wrong peer, the wrong boyfriend, the wrong this. But this is, and ironically, this is how I think I followed that design too, is learning from these mistakes as well, and just having to either trust the wrong people or really do that. I wouldn't want to hit rock bottom, but I would, that trusting that inner self would be prominent for advice. It is what it is. But if I did have that choice, find the gene keys and trust your inner knowing, because I had that about people and I had that about things. And I always would say to people, I can't put my finger on it, but people want this proof. They always want that definitive proof in things. But that used to be my thing. I used to say that all the time. It was the funniest thing. I used to be, I can't put my finger on it. I don't know. And if it isn't a yes or a no, we got to think about it. But it's learning. It's really learning. I know from human design, though, I have to wait for clarity. Some people have the gut intuition. Mine is to wait for clarity. So when I think about things now, I get very excited, but then I have to sit, and I know I have to wait. It could be a day, it could be a month, it could be a year, but I have to sit on it. So I'm now learning how to just, besides the natural thing, learning to really, this is how you're made. You cannot just go with the gut. Some people, it literally says gut intuition. Mine is wait for clarity. So I try and honor that.
It's amazing what happens when we do know those human designs and really trust
and learning them together, because they're both important. It's powerful. I would start with the gene keys, but then once you do get into human design, it's your way of life. It's your way of life, but it's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. And thank you for sharing that. So, Sasha, before we wrap up, before we say goodbye, and I said I just want to thank you for being a guest on our
I'm so happy to be here. Yeah, grateful.
Thank you. Is there anything else, or is there any other question that I could have asked you about being fulfilled, about, being fulfilled, letting go of that need for validation, or human design and gene keys? Is there anything else that you would like to share?
Yeah, I really implore people I know is to really want that question of what do you want? And the mind is going to quickly come up. That I still have these battles with my mind. I know it sounds like I am some I got a psychosis, but it's in a good way. Your mind is going to come up and say, just like how I said, you're going to want the best for others. We all do. We're human, and we're meant to help each other in some capacity. And you'll go through these layers of that. And before you start to get to yourself and think about superficial things, I want this house. I want this bike. I want this car. I want this thing. And then just keep going until, because eventually it just comes in. Finally, you're at your body. And then there's that. Now your soul is listening and speaking. And when you get to that point, because I used to want that house and I wanted that car. And now, even if it's a house, it looks different. My house, and for a different reason, not to look flashy for anybody else. My goal in life is to have, I don't even care if it's a bungalow, a little tiny house, but by the beach, and not to say, oh, I got a beach house. So I can sit there every morning. I have this future memory, and think about what your future memory is. Once you're at your body and you're thinking, I get to walk that beach every day. I get to ground every single day and finally get to just free my mind every single day. What does that look like? And when it starts to really be about you, and your mind starts to question, oh, that's selfish, you're on the right track. Yeah. You're absolutely on the right track. But let all those, the mind is going to come up in lots of things, and you just take them and you throw them out, and eventually your soul is really going to be talking. And what's amazing is when you actually study yourself and you look and you're like, whoa, because then that child comes back and what they wanted. There's fun. I just want peace. I want fun. That's my ultimate goal now. And that looks so much different than I wanted for myself in my 20s and 30s.
Thank you. And it's so true. I mean, I really believe that our purpose in life is just to experience joy. So thank you ever so much for being on our podcast today. And again, for everyone who's watching or listening to this episode, do yourself a favor, click on the links below and reach out to Sasha for a conversation, because you never know where that can end up, whether it's a coaching session or a coaching package or just a connection, because you are a very, very special woman, Sasha, and I'm honored to be able to meet you, and I can feel your energy, even though we're on the opposite side.
Yeah.
So thank you ever so much.
Yes, I'm so grateful. And I love to, this brings me so much joy when I get to spread this message and share with other people, because it really could be a life changer for some people.
Yes, and we can see that. We can see how much
being at that lowest point in your life, or it's hard, or at a crossroads. Even you might have success and that imposter syndrome of, did I deserve that? Or it's good to have a conversation about.
Thank you ever so much, and do come back for another conversation.
Oh, definitely.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today, and a special thank you to Sasha for sharing her journey and wisdom on finding inner fulfillment and breaking free from the need for external validation. If today's conversation with Sasha about gene keys and human design resonated with you, please hit that subscribe button, give us a like, or share this episode with someone else who may need it. You are also welcome to check out Sacred You at www.sacredyou.love for more tools, resources, and empowering connections. As we wrap up today, may you take this with you. The true fulfillment comes from within. You have everything you need to live an authentic and powerful life. Keep shining your light, and we will see you next time.